Yeah, welcome once again to today's class, and I will be your tutor for today. We'll be looking into front-end development, and as we started in the previous class, we'll be going into getting started with HTML, which is the structure of every web page, every website, every web app you can think of. HTML is the structure. So before we go into that, there are some tools that we'll be using across, and one of the main fundamental tools we'll be using is you need to have your system, which everybody knows. And I just want to tell you, if you don't have a system, you might be able to code along for a while, but it gets difficult alongside. But there are other ways you can actually go about it, which is also making use of online text editor, such as CodePen, which we'll be using today. CodePen is an online text editor which allows you to write code on the web without having to download the code without you having to download the tool to your system. Basically, that's what CodePen is, and I'm also going to show you. I just want to run you through it. And also using what is called Visual Studio Code as a developer. There is called text editor. So there are various kind of text editor ranging from Sublime Text to Notepad to Visual Studio Code to Atom. There are so many of them, but 99%, let me not say 99%, 90% of developers prefer to use Visual Studio Code simply because it has a lot of community usage, and also simply because there are so many integrations which makes your work easier and faster. And if you go have noticed, so as you go on, you will see some of the things that you would have to do with Visual that makes your work very easy and fast on Visual Studio Code. So for those of you who have Visual Studio Code, for those of you that don't have Visual Studio Code on your system, the first thing you would have to do is just head over to your Chrome and go to and just search Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code download either for your Mac OS or your Windows OS. I'm currently using a Windows OS, and you can either download any one of them. So once you click on Windows, it gives you the automatic one for your system. So I don't have to download it again. So it gives you the automatic one for your system. So you don't have to, you just have to start thinking which one should I download or which one shouldn't I download. So that's it. So, and also on your Windows OS, you can, I said Windows, on your Mac OS, you can also do the same. You can also do the same, and you run the installation on your Mac. Then once you have installed it, your Visual Studio Code should simply look like this. The Visual Studio Code simply look like this. Let me open up my Visual Studio Code also. Visual Studio Code. So this is how your Visual Studio Code is simply going to look like. Don't mind the way I have something opened already, but your Visual Studio Code is actually going to look all plain and simple, just like this. So what you just need to do is create your first folder, which is what you're going to do in today's class, and we walk through it. So also, if you don't have access to your system, like I mentioned, you can also code along with us, but you will do that on the web. And we will actually do that. We'll actually use that on few occasions when you want to draw attacks. We'll actually use CodePen. You can write on Visual Studio Code and just copy your code and paste it on CodePen and just generate a link from there, and you make use of it. So let's go to CodePen. Oh, sorry, I said CodePen, CodeSandbox rather, CodeSandbox. So what is CodeSandbox? CodeSandbox is an instant cloud development environment, just like a Visual Studio Code. CodeSandbox gives you the ability to do everything you want to do on your Visual Studio Code, also in the cloud on your browser, which which makes it like you can code on the go, even without your system, you can actually code. And it's also very helpful because it is integrated with other platforms which we use, such as your GitHub account. You can actually push from CodeSandbox to Visual Studio Code, from CodeSandbox to Visual Studio Code, and you can also integrate CodeSandbox into your Visual Studio Code. And it works hand in hand that way. So it makes development so seamless and easy to walk through. So I would so this is how for CodeSandbox, the first thing you just have to do is you create an account. So after you have an account on CodeSandbox, I'm moving too fast. Well, I'm just explaining. So Patrick, when I want to go in depth into the class, I'm going to slow down the pace. So when you just have to, CodeSandbox has been installed, I don't know why. So probably just CodeSandbox automatically installed on my system, but you can either sign up with your GitHub account or you sign up with your email account or your Apple account. So once you sign up, I'm going to sign up with my Gmail account because I don't want to synchronize it with my GitHub account. I don't use it most of the time. So once you synchronize, I have an account already. I have an account on CodeSandbox. So this is how we are going to make use of CodeSandbox. Or should I just make you guys, should we just use CodeSandbox today? Then by next week, by next class, we go into using Visual Studio Code. I think that's going to be better so that you can have a feel of how it's going to look like. So the first thing we are going to do is we create, you click on create. Once you click on create, it automatically gives you this pop-up. And what you're going to work on is you just see HTML and CSS. Once you click on this, it gives you give it a name. I'll give it CodeCamp front end class. And I can make it private, I can make it view, I just make it viewable to everyone. And I put it in my draft folder. No, I just do create CodeSandbox. And once I click on create, what it simply does is it generates a text editor for me. When it generates a text editor for me, you would see the text editor that is going to generate for me. So this is the text editor that's generated for me. So I can write all my code here. It's just the same way it's going to work on, just the same way it's going to work on Visual Studio Code. That's the same way it's also going to work here. So I can write in here, and whatsoever I'm writing and I save, automatically appears on my so everything you're writing automatically synchronizes and shows on your browser. And that's one of the advantage. That's one of the advantage of CodeSandbox. That's one of the advantage of CodeSandbox. And it's just like you writing your code and you're seeing it automatically on your right and on the left. So let's now go into our lecture profile today. So we are saying, what is HTML? HTML at a stance is simply looks like the simple the full meaning of HTML simply stands for hypertext markup language. As it is here, is this is the standard language used to create and structure content on the website. Is defined by it defines the structure of every web page by using a system of tags elements. HTML is the foundation of every website, every web development, and also works along CSS for styling and JavaScript for functionalities to build functional websites. So our HTML simply works in the sense that, as I made mention in the last class, when you want to build a house, you meet an architect. An architect gives you a rough sketch. An architect gives you a rough sketch of how the house is going to look like on paper, which is what the UI UX designer is going to do. And once the UI UX designer have done that, it gives it to the builder. And what the builder simply does is the builder takes that design and begins to mold block So HTML simply stands as the block that you would be using to lay the foundation and begin to demarcate how your rooms are going to look like. So for example, now you want to build a mini flat, which is going to be a bungalow. The first thing you have to do is you have to lay your foundation, you set your blocks the way they are going to be. Then you start laying your block bit by bit and you start partitioning the rooms. You have your living area, you have your toilet area, you have everything. So instead of us now making use of block, we don't have literal blocks that we'll be using in HTML, which are actually right. So we're actually going to be making use of tags, such as there are different types of tags in HTML, such as the heading tags. There's the heading tags, there are the paragraph tags, there's the link tag, there's the image tag, and so many tags out there which we'll be looking at in depth. So let me just run through the slides. So once I go into CodeSandbox, we'll just be writing code and I'll be showing you some of the things that we'll be working with. So if you do have any question, just do well to raise up your hand or you can drop it in the chat box. I would definitely see it and I would respond. So HTML tags are actually divided into two. They are simply called the semantic HTML tags and the non-semantic HTML tags. What are semantic HTML tags? Semantic HTML tags are tags that we use that gives clear explanation to what we are basically doing. For example, now, on your code, you want to have an header section. Instead of you just using a div, which you will see in subsequent times, you would simply just use an header section. Now, what the header section simply do is it gives specific meaning to your web application, and it also helps for SEO optimization. It also helps for SEO optimization over time. So you would hear something that there is something called web crawling, so that when you input a search on Google, how does it pop up so many details relating to that particular element? Well, for example, when I go to a new location and I can't see I have a kind of bias for, I don't know if you're in Lagos, I have a bias for eating in places I have known and I have eaten in. So the first thing I look for is Chicken Republic around me. So if there are any Chicken Republic around me within like 10-kilometer radius, it would definitely pop up. And how does it crawl the web like that? It's simply based on SEO optimization, or I just search for restaurants. And in your header tags and in the header tags, you have some things like that, which actually enables the SEO optimization properly. So you would have to put in some keywords such as restaurants and some specific keywords which you would want, which is actually peculiar to your website or your web application along the line. So we later in the course we'll talk about SEO optimization. So you don't have to worry yourself about SEO optimization here. But as a front-end developer, you need to know that you would work basically with SEO optimization. And I also want you to know that sometimes I will mention some things in between the class, but we will not discuss it at that particular point in time. It's going to be like a graph learning. So I'll mention some things at this particular time, just like I've mentioned SEO, but we are not going to be speaking, we're not going to be going into SEO. We are not going to be going into SEO at this point in time. We would be going into it later on. So I have a question here. Can we make use of Visual Studio Phone app to learn? I kind of do, but no, I kind of do not have a system currently. Well, for you to be able to work, Imisi Oluwa, I simply just advise you to use CodeSandbox instead of downloading the app on your phone. Basically, just use CodeSandbox instead of downloading the app on your phone, because that alone would give you good leverage to be able to express yourself, because the app will be kind of constrained. The app will be kind of constrained to do some kind of things, but you having CodeSandbox gives you express, will I say, we'll give you a few of the text editor you'll be using. But I've not used Visual Studio Code app, so I don't know how it looks like. But I have used CodeSandbox, and I would recommend CodeSandbox over Visual Studio Code app, because I've not used it before, and I've not coded on my, since I started my tech journey, I have not used my phone to code, but I understand that some people do code with their phone. That is why CodeSandbox came to the rescue for us. So, just take note of that. So, back to what I was saying. So we have tags such as semantic HTML tags, such as headers, articles, footer, and they just describe the sections of our page, just like the footer of your website. It's simply just the base part of your website where if you go to websites, you will see some places where they have their logo, their about us, and what have you, and also their copyright. It's basically the bottom part of the website. That's actually the footer. And once you go to the header is like the upper part where you have the navigation. The header is like the upper part of your website, where you also have, let me show you a website. Let me show you a website, and I will use that as an analogy. Let me just use Piggyverse website. For example, Piggyverse is always my lab rat when it comes to practical sessions. So I have no bias for Piggyverse. It's just like a lab rat for me. So I would explain using semantic HTML tag. I would explain how the structure of this website looks like. So when you have this Piggyverse, you have this savings, we would regard it as the header session, but this would be like the nav. If you check my slide properly, you will see that we have a nav. This will be the navigation, where all the navigations are going to be. This website is simply beautiful, and it has this kind of animation, this kind of bouncing animation, simply because they have added CSS to it. And I can tell you, this website was built with a framework, not HTML and CSS. So there are going to be some kind of, you might want to do some animations. You might want to do some animations that you might want to do some animation that will be kind of difficult, but with a framework, it would be much easier. It would be much easier. So let's continue. Sorry, did I break a bit? Were you guys hearing me, or I broke a bit?
You broke a bit.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. So, all right, so I was explaining the structure of this website. This is the navigation, and this is like the hero session. And we call something the hero session, where like you put your concepts, you put like major details about the website. And let's go back to the structure of what we have. Where's my slide? So we have like the header, the navigation, we have the article. We have the article right inside it. And so based on this website, which Piggyverse website, we have the navigation, which is also the header. We have the hero section. We have other sessions. This could be regarded as sessions, and session is also a semantic HTML tag. And after this call, I'm going to give you a task to go and list out all the semantic and non-semantic HTML tags that we have. So that just came to my head, and I'm going to, so you'll be familiar with it. So this is also a session, and these are sessions. You just use the you can also, like, if you now have like a blog and you are quoting someone, like do they have like this session now? This could be their article session. whereby their users have made some testimonies about them and they want to write it in form of article. That is what you're going to use right here. So you use the article, and you can use the article goes hand in hand with the article goes hand in hand with the figure tag, which you would see right here. Article and figure tag goes hand in hand. And when I was talking about the footer previously, this is just like the footer. This last session this last session is the footer. This last session is the footer. So that's how the structure of HTML works with the semantic HTML tags. So I think I have explained semantic HTML tags enough, but you will see that in practice. So these are non-semantic HTML tags. Non-semantic HTML tags are just you making use of div, and they don't give any specific meaning to what they are doing. They are just like div, just you dividing something. And I did mention we are currently using the standard HTML5 version, which is still the global standard. Probably by next year it will be HTML6 and all, but currently we are using HTML5 version, which makes it much easier for us to write shorter versions of code, such as instead of previously, I think in HTML2 you would have to write division before you can create a div. But now you just have to use the short form of div and you're good to go. So let's get into a little practical session using CodeSandbox. Let's get into practical sessions using CodeSandbox. So this is our HTML structure. And I would simply explain what this is to you. Are we still following? Are we still following? Are we still following, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So when you're using Visual Studio Code or you're making use of CodeSandbox, the structure of HTML is always the same. The structure of HTML is always the same because in Visual Studio Code, like I will show you, you would have a doc type. You would have a doc type which simply defines that this structure, this document is simply an HTML document. And once you're creating an HTML document, either you're using your Visual Studio Code. When you're in Visual Studio Code, I'll show you how you create an HTML file. But right here in CodeSandbox, they have given us our index.html file. And for you to have an HTML file, it has to have the index of .html. That is the first point of call, that this extension, this file extension of .html is what this is an HTML file. Then when you now come into the document, you have to declare a doc type. And you just you doing this, if you are not using CodeSandbox, if peradventure you are using CodeSandbox but your index.html file was not created, it's always a short code. Please, if you already code, sir, please, if you have, Pascal, I can't get your question. You're saying, sir, if you have already CodeSandbox, how can you create a new one? Okay, if you have an existing CodeSandbox, just go to your CodeSandbox and create a new one. Create new. Just click on create new on your CodeSandbox, or you just log into your CodeSandbox account and you create a new file. That's what you have to do. So I don't know if you got my answer, Pascal. So Patrick, I'm going to apply to Visual Studio Code. I'm going to apply to, but I'm benefit of those that don't have a system. So I am using CodeSandbox, but from subsequent classes, when I introduce you guys to Visual Studio Code, I'll simply do what? We'll use Visual Studio Code all through, but just for the meantime, we would use CodeSandbox for this class and probably next class. So I've explained the doc type, which has the doc type of HTML, and that's simply how it's going to look. And you would have like a language. Then after you have declared the doc type, I wanted to show you a shortcut before I was cutting by the question. So you have like an exclamation mark. And I said, if you are trying to create a new HTML file in your CodeSandbox and you are not given the template, the structural template, what you just need to do is just use shift exclamation. You would see an image abbreviation pop up that would come up. Then just click on it. It gives you the simple structure of what we have above. We simply have that same structure. We simply have that same structure. But I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to do control. So I'm just showing you the shortcut on how to get your HTML structure back. So let's continue. So the first thing I'll be talking about today is the headings we have, the H1 to H1 tags, the heading tags in HTML. There are 6 different types of heading tags in HTML, which is ranging from heading 1 to 6, and we have heading 1 right here. Let me do 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, I didn't know this didn't work. So you can see there is always an opening and there's always a closing tag for each one of them. So also don't make a mistake of not having an opening and closing tag. But you also see along the line that there are some tags that don't have, there are some elements that don't have closing tag. So this is what we have. We have H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. So the H1 tag is always like when you are in secondary school and your teacher is teaching you a new topic for the very first time. What you are simply going to do is you are going to make the topic so bold, and you use the H1 tag. So it's going to be like the major topic. Then you now have like subtopics, like this is the topic, Introduction to Biology. Then your first topic is, under that Introduction to Biology, you have a topic called, I don't know why reproduction is coming to my head, but that's the only topic that can come to my head at this point. So you have a subtopic of reproduction. Then under that subtopic of reproduction, it's not going to be like the main topic. It's going to be like a subtopic. Then you now have subtopic below it. So in HTML, we use these heading tags to define. We use these heading tags to define. We use these heading tags to define our various headings from H1 to, and you can see as they are all in different sizes. So H1 actually looks big. H2 actually looks smaller, and H6 is the smallest. And okay, I did something that I was able to duplicate my lines of code. And I did that using Shift Alt down. If you use the arrow key on your keyboard using Shift Alt down, you would simply duplicate your lines of code. You simply duplicate your lines of code. And you doing that, those are some of the shortcuts you would use in Visual Studio Code. So I might not be able to use audio shortcut. I might not be able to say audio shortcut, but along the line, once you're using Visual Studio Code and I make use of any one of them, I'll let you know what I did. So I didn't sit down in a separate class to learn how to use Visual Studio Code. Like the way we make use of WhatsApp, nobody taught us how to use WhatsApp. Like IK said, we just figured out how to use WhatsApp. Some of the things I am using in Visual Studio Code, I was probably watching a tutorial, or I saw someone use it somewhere, and I just decided to embed it into mine. But there are still some standards, such as duplicating of line, copying and pasting, and the like. So that is still going to be like a standard practice across board. So then we have the P tag. We have the P tag, which is the P tag simply stands for paragraph. Welcome to class. So welcome to class. So the P tag is just like when you are writing a note in school, when your teacher is dictating the note for you, you just want to keep writing. That is what the P tag does. It takes like large number of text. I'll just use like lorem, ipsum lorem, or Z. So I also did something now to make my code compact. It was all on a straight line previously, and I wanted it to be like, so I don't have to be scrolling. I'd use simply Alt Z. If you do a Control A to copy your code and you just do Alt Z, it would structure your code properly. So, and there is also formatter. I think CodeSandbox has an auto formatter that formats your code properly. So let's continue. So this is the paragraph tags, and those are some of the things you'll be using over time. Those are some of the tags you'll be using over time. And the next one I'll be talking about is the link tag. On your website, you would want your website to link from one page to another. So there's an A tag. There's an A tag in HTML which has this, but it also has an attribute. With the attribute of href, that is where you're going to add your link. So let's say, for example, now we want our website to link to once they click on a particular link, we want it to link to Piggyvest. So let's just copy this link, Control A, Control C, and let's go back to CodeSandbox. Sorry, let me close this. Let's go back to CodeSandbox, and inside our href, we would add the link there, and we put Piggyvest. Go to Piggyvest, go to Piggyvest. And once we save this and we come right here, you would see that once we click on this, it's going to redirect us to Piggyvest. So that is the A tag. That is the A tag. That is you trying to link your page. Even if you have different pages in your file, in your project, in your folder structure, you would simply you have different pages of your website. You don't want it to link to an external website. That's the simple way you're going to do it. That is the same way you are actually going to do this. Why is this not going back? I have done something. So we are back to what we have. So another thing is, sorry, please, are we following? Hope I'm not just speaking to the air. I want to be sure we are all following. I want to be sure we are following. Hilda, you got kicked out. Do you have any question? Are you kind of confused? I want to be sure that we are all getting it. I've spoken for like 20 minutes plus now, and I want to be sure we are getting it. Are we getting it? Am I making sense? Am I communicating? Okay, very good. Awesome. Nice. Okay, how did I get the lorem? Okay. Lorem is just like they're jargons. They are just random jargons, which I did. I'm not the one that wrote the lorem. So there is an emit abbreviation. There is emit abbreviation embedded into CodeSandbox. Now, once you type a text lorem, you would see an emit abbreviation option that pops up. Once you click on that, gives you list of different kind of Latin words. It's just a combination of different kind of Latin words, and it does not make any significant meaning. It's just like placeholders. You would never see this lorem ipsum on a website. You won't see it. is going to be actual text, but we use Ipsyn lorem for dummy text. We regard Ipsyn lorem as dummy text on every website. So I hope you get that, Hilda. All right, very good, Hilda. So let's continue. So we have spoken about the tag, which is the link tag. So I'm also going to do this, that let's create another page. Let's create another page. Let's create another file and call it about.html. So with about.html, I'm simply going to do this, and I'm going to write about us page here. About us page. And I'm going to write, I'm going to just use each one. This is the about us page. So I want us to be able to link these two websites, these two pages together. So let's come right to this part of our page, and let me close this so we have like a full screen of what we are doing. So the first one we did is this piggyverse is linking to an external website, but in most cases, you would not link to an external website. You would have like a page on your website for that. So like the About Us page now, if you like piggyverse, they have various pages, About Us page, Contact Us page, and we want to do that for our own, we just do a dot slash, and it goes to the About Us page, and we write, and we have About Us. About Us, and once we save this, we click on this, it should simply link us to the About Us page, and you can see our URL simply changed to about this url.app/about us page. That is simply what we are going to get. So if we want to go back to the other page, we simply just clear what is in front of it, or we go to our About Us page, and we have a link right here. We have a link right here, and we have an href. We have a dot slash to the index dot, Control Z, and we have index.html, and we close the tab. We close it right here, and we say home page. Go back. We just write home page. So let's go back to our About Us page. I want to go back to the home page. We just click right here, and it takes us back to the index.html page. So I also want you to notice something right here now. You can see that there are two different kinds of elements we have in HTML. They are the block elements and they are the inline elements. So the block elements are elements that occupies their full width. As you can see, I have H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. What this simply did was, each of those elements, they occupied a full width. But look at what we have on our index.html page. You can see that, okay, let me try out something so you can know the difference. Probably because you're saying that I have them on different lines in my visuals, in my text editor. That is why they are breaking on the browser. No. Let me put this right here. So I have my H1 and H2 on the same line, but CodeSandbox is actually formatting my text so that they are not on the same line. That's why, but when we get into Visual Studio Code, I'm going to practicalize it. If you are writing on two, like I said, block elements are elements that occupy the full width while inline elements are just elements that occupy the total space of that particular element. So you can see that I have two links right here, examples of examples of inline elements are And that will also be additional to the assignment I'm going to give you guys, which is checking out block elements. What are list the various kind of inline. I said inline. Sorry, list the various type of semantic and non-semantic HTML tags that we have, and also you would tell me which, when you are differentiating that between blocks, between semantic and non-semantic HTML tags, you would also differentiate which one is a block element and which one is an inline element. So I hope you are following, and you got. Don't worry, I'm still going to type the assignment on our Discord channel. I'm still going to type the assignment on our Discord channel. I just want you guys to be following. So if when I type it, you would get. Sorry, can you guys give me just a minute? I want to plug my system. I'm actually running out of battery. Just a minute. I'm so sorry. Just a minute. So, I was talking about the assignment. So you would differentiate between which one is a block element and which one is an inline element. And also, you would also differentiate which one is a semantic HTML tag and which one is not a semantic HTML tag. So let's continue. So the next one I would be talking about is the image tag. I will be talking about the image tag. How do you add image to your website? So there are various ways we add image on websites, which is by inputting the source. You upload the file, you upload your file right here. You upload your image right here and you make use of it, or you simply do what? You use a CDN, which is your image is hosted on another platform, so probably your Google Cloud or what have you, and you input and you just copy the link and paste it right here. But in most cases, I'm going to tell you why, the benefits of both of them and the disadvantage of both of them. So for you using a CDN, this is what a CDN looks like. So let me go to Pixel B. Just get a simple image. So let me just copy the link to this image. This image, and let's just use this. No, why is this? No, I'm coming. Let me get the image properly. Copy link address. You have copied the link address. So let's get back here, and I paste this, and I just write image. So there are some. Let me explain. So the source is where your images are, where the link to your image, where the image is located. That's the source. Then the alt text is simply used because of visually impaired people, or in case the link is broken, probably after you have uploaded the image got deleted and you don't want that place to be empty. So your users can know that, oh, there is an image here. There is an image here. Basically, what you are simply going to do is, so let's save this and see if this image is simply going to show. This image is actually breaking. Why is this image breaking? But it could not open. Okay. Let me get another image. Let me get another image. Let me get another image. Let me copy this. Yeah, sometimes it happens like that when an image is posted on an external platform and you try to use it, it doesn't work. So don't worry. I think I'll just go to my Google Drive and pick one of my images. Just for my image, let me copy the link. copy link actually work. This should actually work. So let's try this out. So if this doesn't work, I would explain further in the why is the image copy. So image copied. So let's this should, why are the image breaking? Well, I can't give a reason why the image are breaking. It could be one, network issues, because I'm using it through a content delivery network, which is CDN simply means that I'm not the owner of the image. I am simply getting it from an external source. And why this in most cases is not a good approach is simply because now at this particular point, this image is broken. The link is broken, and the link is broken and we can't see the image. But if, or the peradventure, let's just assume that the moment you copy the image link, the user, the owner of that image that we have online just deleted the image, we would be at a loss because we have actually made use of that image and we can't use it. So what is always advisable for us to do as developers, every image that we are going to be using on our website, what we simply, I closed the tag. I actually closed the tag. So I was saying something, George. I was saying something in the previous class. I was saying something earlier that there are self-closing tags. There are some tags that are self-closing. Such of them is your image. Yeah, okay, this image actually showed. Thank you very much, George, for sending this. So you can see now that this image this is how you input image on our website. So this is how you input. Thank you, George, once again for providing this image for me. Other ones were not showing. So we have used this image and you can see that it's showing on the screen. So at a particular point in time when your screen readers when a visually impaired person is on your website, they can't basically see the picture. What the screen reader is going to read to them is there is an image of a man standing on a rock right here. There is an image of a man standing on a rock. That is what they're going to listen to. That's what the screen reader is going to say. Because of this alt text, alternative text. The alternative text simply does two things. If the image is not available like we saw before, and for screen readers so that they can have access to it. So visually, I know visually impaired people that have access to the web. So they just listen to the web, to the document, to voice prompt from the website, and they input their details so they know how they have a special computer that they use for that. So let's continue. And once they do, I was talking about CDN, and I was talking about CDN before diverting into this. So when you're using a content delivery network, the image can be deleted, and at a particular point where the image is deleted, you don't have access to it any longer. But if you upload, you're the owner of the image and you upload it, if you are the owner of the image and you upload it to and you have it in your folder structure, when we get into Visual Studio Code, I will show you a very good folder structure which is acceptable for us as CodeCamp. I will just chip this in also. In CodeCamp, we don't just mark only your code. We mark how your folder structure is, to how well structured your code is. More of that later. I just have to chip that in. So you have to have the image locally as an asset, which you are going to use. So once you upload your website to the cloud-based data system, it's automatically there, unless you go there personally to go and delete that image. That is when the image is no longer going to be available. I think I have touched on image properly. So let's go into some little styling you can do with HTML, which is this. Let's have like a paragraph. Let's just have a paragraph, and I will do some things in between the paragraph. So let's have another lorem. Let's have a lorem text here, and I want to do some styling. This is strong, and I put it right here. I put a closing tag of strong right here. So this is like when you are using your Microsoft Word and you want to bold an item, you simply do that. So let's scroll down a bit. You can see that this is bold. This image, let's comment out this image. Let's comment out this image so we don't have to be scrolling too long. Let's comment our image, and yep. So you can see the screen. You can see that we have the strong damage is bold. We can also have we can also make a text italic. So we just have something called I, which is italics. You can italicize it. So this is just more like using your mind. So some of the themes you have in Microsoft Word, you replicate it right here. That is what all these texts are for. So which one again is there? There are so many of them. There is mark, there is delete, and yes, and I will tell you some of these HTML tags, you don't use them too often. Sometimes it's just for knowledge sake, because if you are building a website and you want to style your elements, you won't be using strong, you'll be using bold. You'll be using your CSS to style it, basically. You'll be styling directly from CSS. And when you're styling directly from CSS, you don't need all these strong, bold italics, because there is a class for it in CSS. There is an attribute for it in CSS already, which you'll be using. So I'm not going to talk about much on this. These are just the two I'm going to talk about. So I made mention of something previously. We have how do you comment? So now in your code, you have written something in your line of code, but you don't want to delete it because you will definitely come back to it. Probably you would definitely come back to it later on in the future. So what you just need to simply, okay, I've actually done it previously, just use Ctrl/ and you comment out, I did it on our image. So we are still going to use this image later on. But we are just commenting it out because it's obstructing our view. So what else? So we are going to go into forms. We are going to go into forms in CSS. I said in CSS. Let's go into tables. So what are tables? Tables are what we use to when I'm trying to give a proper definition for table. Tables allows web developers to arrange content in rows and columns. So when you write a table, you have the heading and you have details in between. So that's simply what we are also going to do right here. So let's create a table. It's not going to be styled, it's just like a simple normal table. We have table. So please, are we still following? We are like 1 hour into the class. Let me see. Are there any questions? Let me take questions for the next 5 minutes. Are there any questions? Are we following? Am I making sense? Am I communicating? Can we all hear me? Is there any question? I think the name John Paul Abraham actually sounds familiar. I think I can't remember, but I know I've heard that name somewhere. John Paul Abraham. I can't remember, but I've heard that name somewhere. Oh, that's true. Patrick, I've told you I'm going to use CodeCamp. I'm going to use Visual Studio Code in the next class, not in this class. I'm focusing more on Visual Studio, CodeSandbox. So, is there any question, or I should? Okay, why is the text in for H1 tag underlined? That is simply because thank you very much. You are being observant, Abel. You are very, very much observant. So, CodeSandbox have actually created the CSS style for us right here. And they have the text decoration of underline. Once I delete this, it automatically goes away. So CodeSandbox actually, that element, CodeSandbox actually styled it. CodeSandbox actually styled it. So that's why. Please, my question is about the image. I noticed it's too big. And how do you handle resizing? Yeah, there are ways we handle resizing in Java, in HTML. What you simply just have to do is you just define the width. Just define the width of 100 pixel and the height. You just define the width and the height of 100 pixel. And yes, you can see once I define the width of 100 pixel, let me make it 500 pixel. 500 pixel. You can see it became more bigger. So that's how you handle image resizing. So most of all these things are done in CSS. Most of all these things are done in CSS, but sometimes we just have to do it in HTML. But I'm majorly anything. I'm just talking about the structure. That is why I don't want to go into the details of the styling here and there. So, is there any other question? Emmy, yeah, there's always a first time to everything. I was in your shoes some years ago. Yeah, I was in your shoes some years ago. I didn't know jack about what is code. I didn't even know what is HTML. So that you would along the line just get accustomed to it, rewatch the video. Don't be under pressure. Rewatch the video, try to understand what is being communicated. And at that point, you code alongside. Don't just watch the video, code alongside. And once you code alongside, you would have a better understanding. And if you do that 1, 2, 3 times, it creates something that is called muscle memory. It creates some of the things that is called muscle memory, and you'll be able to do it. And the more practice you do, the more you practice, the more you get better. That's why I said the only way you can become good as a developer, as a techie, is simply you practicing. I said it in the last class, you practicing and practicing and practicing. There is a lot of manuals, there are a lot of tutorials on YouTube, there are a lot of materials. Aside, once you have gotten the class materials and you have, okay, this is what we have done in class, and you can simply now do what? Look for other source. I'll tell you, no one is an island of knowledge, or everything, nothing resides in me alone. So you can also check out other materials. There are some things I might touch on in class. There are some things I might not touch on. But when you do a personal learning, you will definitely go through with it and you would understand. So aside learning in class, there is still much work to be done on your part to be able to learn. That's it. So is there any other question? I should continue with the class. So the H tag, the IMG tag, can it be referred to as a non-semantic or a non-semantic HTML tag? Harlan, you want me to start answering my question, my task, the assignment I want to give you guys? You want me to start answering my question? Well, sometimes we can refer to IMG tag, the image tag, as a semantic HTML tag, and sometimes we might refer to it as a non-semantic HTML tag, actually. But it's still based on the definition we gave. Based on the definition we gave, that Semantic HTML tags are tags that defines what attributes, what they're actually doing. So you know that this particular tag is an image tag. So if based on that definition, it falls under semantic HTML tag. So Alan, do you understand? No, it's not a problem. Do you understand, Alan? All right, so I think we can continue now. So let me go further into, I was talking about table. So creating a table, you have the table tag, which has the opening, which has the TR. The TR simply stands for table row. If you probably come across old code, like if you go on YouTube now, you see some tutorials that will be like 7, 8, 10 years ago. You will see something like this. You see something like this, table row. You see, I can't remember it because it's been a long time. You see something like table row or table data. So we just, because of we are using HTML5, you would have, you would just have, what's the name? You would just have you just have the short form of TR. So we have a TR, which this is it. And for our heading, we would have TR, we have a TH, which is simply table heading. We have the closing tag also, TH. The TH stands for table heading. So, and I would have name. I'm also going to duplicate this line. Name, track. I'm also going to have location. So this is our heading. I'm going to have a TR again, TR, which is row, and I'm going to have the data. So each one of those data are going to fall hand in hand. So I have the TD, which is table data. I have John, John Paul. So let me close this properly, /cd. We have this track, is a front-end developer. We have cd, front-end, cd. We have, what is the next thing? We have the location. I think Paul is located in Abuja. So cd. And once we save this, it will give us this, but this is how table looks like normally. So let me just duplicate this, and you'll now see how I can style this, how I can do some little styling in HTML. So let me duplicate this. Let me just duplicate this multiple times, like 5 times. How many times do we have? We have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let me just check for other people. Let me just check for other people in the class and just use them. I have a bell. Let me change this to a bell. Let me change this to a bell. Let me change this to Adam. Adams, rather. I said Adam. Let me. Dennis, and I have IK. I have IKs. So it is what we have, and we have different details and all. So I will do a little styling right here with CSS. with CSS basically, but write in HTML, but I'm not going to explain in depth about it until we get into CSS. That is it. So this will give it like a beautiful structure for our HTML. That's why I just want to do that. So we're going to do style. Let's do the style, and I'm going to close it. And we have a table. So don't ask me questions about all this. I'm just doing this from my head. I'm going to just pick some font families. I'm just going to pick this. I'm going to just pick border collapse. I'm going to have border collapse. And you can see, because of we are using a text editor, we are having some sort of suggestion. So that is another thing that Visual Studio Code is going to help you with. It's going to help you with suggestions. It's simply going to help you with suggestions. So, and this is it. So as I'm typing it, it's giving me some suggestions of what I want to type out. So you don't have to. One thing I want to also tell you is don't try to memorize code. It's never, and it will never be a good practice. Don't try to memorize code. It will never, and it will never be good practice, because you will just memorize it for the time being, and at some point you will just lose it. But if you get the good understanding of it and you follow through with it and you practice, you would get the understanding of it. So don't try to memorize code, just flow with it. Don't force yourself to get it at one point. So let's continue. I have the width, and we have 100%. So also all these will focus more on when we are using CSS, TH, and we have border, 1 pixel, solid red. Okay. How I debug text, line left, and I would have padding of 8 pixel. So let's save, and this should, as you can see, we have a beautiful table. And that's simply how we work with table over time. That's how we work with table over time. So is there any question with table, or I should proceed to the next thing I have? So there's a question here. What about in an interview and you're asked to code in an IED that doesn't provide suggestions, say CodePen? Well, if you're actually using, I think I've done that in some cases, and people make use of, I use CodeSandbox. I use CodeSandbox over time. In all the live coding interview that I've done, I use, what's the name? I use CodeSandbox. It's just going to be based on your preference. So, and I think any technical lead that knows their stuff would know that they should take CodePen. I mean, they should take CodeSandbox ahead of CodePen. So, Keshinro, I'm not going to talk about that now. I'm going to talk about that when we get into CSS. That's why I mentioned earlier in the class that I'll mention some things now, but I'm not going to do what? I'm not going to go deep into it, because they are just like a touch on, which I'm going to come back to later on. Is there another collapse that you gave for this enough space? I don't understand what you're saying, George. But regardless, let's continue. Let's continue. If you still have any question, is the border collapse? Is the border collapse what gave it? Yeah, that's what it does. But I'm going to explain that more when we get into CSS. You guys want to push me to explaining CSS, but I'm not going to do that. So how did you duplicate the table? I used shift or shift. Let me try that. Shift alt down. Use shift alt down. That's what you do. Just use shift alt down and it works that way. So I think the next thing we have on our syllabus is list. So in HTML, there are two kinds of lists. There is the ordered list and there is the unordered list. So how do you use both of them? Over time, in my little years of experience, the one I use most is basically unordered list because I don't, but at some point you will still try to use ordered list. So how do you list? What's the difference between order and unordered list? So this is, you have the UL, and you can see I don't rely on, because I'm teaching you guys, I don't rely on emit abbreviation. I try to write out the code, which is not that I can't use emit abbreviation, but I'm trying to write it out because I want you guys to know that, okay, I still know these things off my head and I can use them at any point in time. So UL. So once you have UL, it simply stands for unordered list. And what you just have to do inside, you just have to list. I have coffee, I have Indomie. I have LI, so I just close it. I have rice, LI. So be cautious that you have to have an opening and closing tag. Rice, LI. I have beans, LI, beans, LI, and let's save. So you would see it takes some minutes. So you can see we have ordered list, we have unordered list. This is an unordered list. And the major difference between ordered and unordered list is they give ordered lists are not ordered. So in two examples where you would make use of ordered list is when you want to, when probably you are giving a description of something. For example, I don't know if we have bakers in the house. People will bake cake. They would People who bake cake, they would want to tell you the steps in which you would follow to achieve something. They'll tell you, first of all, mix your flour, pour your flour into a bowl, add egg, mix it, add butter, add sugar. So that's what you use ordered list for. So this is how the ordered list works. It's just, the syntax is just OL. Syntax is just OL. And you have a closing OL also, which is going to be LI. I would have water. So I want to make rice. Boil water. LI. Boil water. Wash rice. LI. Wash your rice. So what is the next step after? Someone should tell me the next step after washing your rice.
And you can sieve the rice.
Can sieve the rice. Okay. So LISIEVE, sieve the rice. So this is all spelling people who don't know how to cook in our class, how we cook rice. So if you don't know how to cook rice, we're taking your lessons now.
Seasoning.
You so you add your seasoning here. No, after seasoning your rice, once you pour the rice into the pot, pour rice into the pot. I still know how to cook. Then you add seasoning, which is salt. Add salt. Then wait till it's boiled and check if it's soft. So soft is relative. It depends on how soft you want your own rice to be, if you like. So then the next thing is sieve out the excess water. Then I put back on the fire to dry. Then after you're then ready to eat. So let's now see if I don't know, maybe I need a better cooks than me in the class, but I've done what I can do. So you can see it's giving our users a step-by-step guide to what is giving our users a step-by-step guide to how they can cook rice and eventually eat it. So that is the difference between the ordered and the unordered list. So the first one we have, which had the rice, beans, is the unordered list. Then the one which we have, the 1, 2, 3, is the ordered list. So, but most of the time we simply do what? We simply make use of unordered list because we eventually style them. And that's how it is. So have we? I can see there are so many. I see there are so many cook in the class. So are there any issue? Do we have any question? Should I go on? Or I know if I want, I can keep going and going and going and going and going, but I don't want you guys to be overwhelmed. I don't want. Can we still use UL and add 1, 2, 3 by yourself? Yes, you can use UL and add 1, 2, 3 by yourself. You would actually have to change the styling. You will just have to change the styling. So, and there are still some other kinds of list tags, such as the DL, the DT, and the which is description list, description details, but the two major ones are just like will I say UL and OL? Can we make UL like a table? UL, I don't get your question, Keshenro. I don't get your question. Like, can we make UL like a table? So seems like UL deals more with bullet points. Yeah, Allen, that's simply it. So can we add space between tags? Patrick, when you say space, is it space like this? You can add space between tags, but because of what's the name? Because of CodeSandbox, it's automatically formatting every text I write. That is why you can't see those spaces I'm adding. That's why. So, are we good? Are we following? Any objection? Any question? Any unordered list also? Yeah, you can actually use that, but you would have to convert it. Abel, you would have to convert that when you are trying to change the style. Yeah, when we get into CSS, you see something called list style. You can change it from bullet point, from numbers to numeric figures, and to Roman numerals and alphabets and the like. So that's what the unordered list does. So whatever is done on CodeSandbox, can you also, yes. When we get by next class, I'll just show you what I'm simply going to do is I'll just copy what we have here on CodeSandbox here, and I'm just going to paste it in Visual Studio Code, and we'll get the same thing. So that's it. So does anyone have any question? I think I'm going to stop the class now. So, or I'm just going to go into forms. If there are no questions, I'm going to go into this thing. I'm going to go into forms. So what if my list has something to do like A, and we have this, that's what is called a nested list, a nested listing. That's what is called a nested listing. So I've not actually done a nested listing, but I know it's something that is achievable. So I will do my research on that and I will let you know in the next class. Formatting for good, I mean, you can't make it the way, you can't make it the way you want, or is it God's will? You can actually, that's why there is a styling. That's where styling comes into play. So with styling coming into play, you can actually do what? You can format it to make it look how you want. So I have two hands are raised. Emily, you can unmute your mic. Emily, rather.
Okay. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Emily.
I wanted to find out, is like you're using either a desktop or a laptop. So can't I be able to do this if I don't have one?
Okay, I made mention that, okay, you can actually make use of CodeSandbox on your phone. Just go to codesandbox.com and create an account there. What I'm simply doing, you can definitely do it on your phone.
Sorry, sir, say it again, CodeSandbox.
Yes, CodeSandbox.
Okay.
Yeah. So just create an account and you create a template using HTML and CSS. I did that. If you go to the beginning of the class, if you can rewatch you have to rewatch the video to see how I created a CodeSandbox account and how I created the HTML and CSS file that we're using now.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So nice. Is it nice? Yeah, nice. Go ahead. Your hand is raised.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. Sir, please, I want to ask this. I'm seeing under this table tag, I'm still seeing table row and the table details inside. So is table tag and the container like you can contain
Yes. Yes, the table is the one that is going to hold it.
Okay.
So what the table holds is like a wrapper. You have a carton. There is Indomie inside that carton, but you can't give you want to buy the Indomie carton, you have to give you the carton. So that carton, the major Indomie carton, is what they will give to you. Is like the table container. That's what is holding everything together. So that every other details now fit into it. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, all right. So are we to do everything first in HTML before going into CSS to start? Yeah, so there is something we call separation of concern. most of the time, because one, it's something we call separation of concern most of the time, because you want to have your structure readily available before you can. You want to have your structure readily available before you can start styling. So you don't have to be going back and forth. So it's going to be faster and much easier for you. So okay, I have my structure, and once I have my structure, I can now focus on styling. So it's just like a good practice that you create your HTML first, and after creating your HTML first, you move to CSS. So I don't know if you got my answer. I want to believe everyone should kind of stick to HTML then for. Yeah, thank you, CodeCamp. You will surely definitely first add blocks before you do what? Before you start painting. So CSS is basically for painting. Please, sir, can you go back to how you link the page? Okay. So I think I did that somewhere here. So I created 2 pages, which is the href, and what are we doing? We have the A tag, and I created a file, and I called it about.html. And if you check inside the about.html, we have these details. Let me just create another one again. Let me create contact.html. So, and I have this, and I call this contact. This is the contact us page. So let's now go back to our index.html. So I want to link this page. So I just duplicate it and I say contact.html, and I have contact us. So let me also go into the index.html and revert back a tag, href, and I have /index.html. So I have home page. So let me also navigate to about. I can also navigate to about us page here, about.html. Let me just write about page. So, and let me save it. So we have so we go to our contact us page. You can see we are in our contact us page. We can now go to either the about us page, and we go to the home page. So that is it, Patrick. Do you understand now, Patrick? So that's how you link your page from one to another. And if you want to go to an external page, external site, what you simply have to do is just copy the link of that external website and embed it into your href, and you are good to go. So so we have. Does anyone have? So I'm going to be taking questions now till the end of the class. So if you have any question regarding your LMS, your tax and all, but before you ask me about your tax, I made mention of something when I started the class, that if you have submitted your tax and you are yet to be graded, we are just having some technical issues. I've been able to grade some, I've not been able to grade some. We are just having some technical issues. That is why. And you would be graded. Once the technical issue is sorted, you will be graded. So kindly bear with us. We are working actively. That's what you face in the development space. Some things just happen and you can't fathom where it's coming from. But Do you have to, our developers are working day and night to get you up to speed. So, are there any other question, or do you have any question, concerns? Let me know. Can you all still hear me? Hello, okay. So, all right. So, is no one has any question? So, if there is no question,
Yeah, Emmy, go ahead. Ekengbola, 2 hands are raised.
okay,
Emmy, go
2
ahead
hands
with your
are
question.
raised. Emmy, go ahead and ask your question.
Did you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead, Emmy.
I say on the issue of LMS, I've registered with the LMS, but I've not been moved forward from there.
You have not been moved forward, as in,
I've not been given any tag, like you just said.
you have not seen any tax.
No.
Which track do you register for? The beginner track?
Yes, beginner for front end.
Okay, if that's the case, navigate to your tax. Navigate to your tax, to the tax page on your LMS. You should see a tax there. You should see a
Let me-
tax there. The tax has been dropped over how many days now? So the tax is there. Just go to your LMS and navigate to the tax page. You will see your tax there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from Discord, right?
Yes.
From Discord, this thing.
Not on the Discord, not on the Discord. LMS, Learning Management System.
So where will I find the LMS? I just registered. I was sent an email. I registered from the email. It took me to an LMS page, something like that, and I did.
Okay, so Ike, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, Emmy,
Okay.
you were sent a mail. You
Yes,
just
sir.
said you registered on the LMS. That's just what you said. So log
Yes,
into
from
that
the
LMS. Your
email.
task is there. Log into the LMS. You created an account on the LMS. So we're saying log into that LMS that you created an account on. Your task is there. There's no task that is hidden from anybody. Once you
She has
sign
not.
up, your first task is waiting. Hold on, sorry. Once you sign up, the first task is waiting for you, except you have not joined the learning management system. See, when you guys are asking questions, I need you guys to be clear and be sure of what you're saying, else we'll not be able to help you. If you're mixing things up, you just confuse us in the program. We don't know how to help, right?
Sorry, sir.
So
Try to
hold
get
on,
me.
hold on. This is a front-end class. So this is what we're going to do. Everything that has to do with LMS, right, will be handled. But I think we should round up the class first so that we don't handle these things during the class. So let's take questions regarding the class, right? If you have questions regarding the class, ask. If you have questions about the LMS, you hold on. We'll end the class and then I'll handle all those things. Please, thank you.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much. I think I've answered all your questions regarding the class. So every other one is just regarding the LMS. So I will just stop the recording now. Yeah, all right. Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you in the next class. Do have a wonderful day. Bye.